The wrench slipped from my grease-stained fingers and clattered onto the concrete floor of my garage. It was past midnight, and I was elbow-deep in the guts of a Mercury outboard motor that had seen better decades. The sound echoed through the cramped space like a gunshot, and for a moment I thought it might wake Claire. Then I remembered. Claire wasn't home. Again. My name is Danny Morrison, and I run Morrison Marine Repair in Cragwood, Massachusetts. It's a dying business in a dying town, but it's mine. Or at least, it was supposed to be ours. Claire and I bought this house with the attached garage 5 years ago, back when she was still pretending to care about my dreams of building something together. The side door creaked open, and, speak of the devil, there she was. Claire stepped into my workspace wearing a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than I made in a week. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe bun she wore to impress her colleagues at Hartwell & Associates, the law firm where she'd been climbing the ladder with the determination of someone fleeing a burning building. "Don't wait up," she said, checking her reflection in the chrome of a boat propeller. "I'm going to that charity gala with Mr. Sloan tonight. Networking. You know how it is." I wiped my hands on a rag and looked at her. Really looked at her. The dress was new. The shoes were those ridiculously tall heels that made her tower over me. 6 inches of "fuck you" strapped to her feet. And the perfume. Christ, the perfume was different too. Something expensive and cloying that made my garage smell like a high-end brothel. Networking, I repeated, tasting the word like it was poison. At midnight? She didn't even have the decency to look guilty. It's a late event. Very exclusive. You wouldn't understand. Translation: don't call, don't text, and definitely don't ask questions about why your wife needs to dress like she's hunting for a new husband just to schmooze with her boss. "Have fun," I said, turning back to the motor. The door slammed behind her, and I heard her car, our car, the BMW we couldn't afford, roar to life and disappear into the night. I should have gone to bed. Should have minded my own business and trusted my wife of 8 years. But something about the way she'd avoided my eyes, the way she'd practically vibrated with nervous energy, made my gut twist with suspicion. Instead, I pulled out my phone and dialed Sam Kowalski. Sam ran Cragwood Photo Services, a one-man operation that specialized in weddings, graduations, and the kind of society events that kept this town's old money feeling superior to everyone else. He was also a drunk, a gossip, and exactly the kind of guy who'd help me out for the right price. "Danny?" His voice was thick with sleep and bourbon. "It's fucking midnight, man." "I need a favor, Sam. There's a charity gala at the country club tonight. You shooting it?" "Yeah, why?" "I want you to keep an eye out for my wife, Claire Morrison. Blonde, about 5'8", probably hanging around a guy named Sloan." There was a pause. Then Sam chuckled, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Trouble in paradise? Just take some pictures. Candid stuff. I'll make it worth your while." "How worth my while?" "500. Deal. I'll call you tomorrow." I hung up and stared at the motor in front of me. The pistons were seized, the cylinders scarred beyond repair. Some things couldn't be fixed, no matter how much time and effort you put into them. The next morning, I was sitting at our kitchen table with a cup of coffee that tasted like motor oil when Claire finally came home. She looked like hell, makeup smeared, hair falling out of that perfect bun, one heel broken. Her dress was wrinkled in all the wrong places. "Good time?" I asked. She froze in the doorway, and for just a second I saw something flicker across her face. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. Then the lawyer mask slipped back into place. It was fine. Boring, actually. Just a bunch of old men talking about tax shelters. I nodded and slid an envelope across the table. Sam sent these over. The color drained from her face as she opened the envelope and saw the photographs. There she was, my loving wife, pressed up against a man who definitely wasn't her boss. The guy was tall, athletic, with the kind of perfectly styled hair that screamed expensive salon. In one photo, his hand was on her ass. In another, they were kissing like teenagers behind the country club's rose garden. "Danny, I can explain." "Can you?" I stood up and she took a step back, because from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty self-explanatory. She tried to recover, tried to lawyer her way out of it. "You're being paranoid. It's not what it looks like. That's Owen Hartwell. He's what?" Your business partner? Your client? I laughed, and it came out bitter and sharp. Claire, lying is your love language, but even you can't spin this. Her face hardened. You hired a photographer to spy on me? I hired a photographer to document my wife's charity work. Imagine my surprise when the charity turned out to be some other guy's dick. She slapped me. Hard. The sound cracked through the kitchen like a whip, and my cheek burned where her palm connected. You bastard, she hissed. You pathetic, jealous bastard. I touched my face and felt the heat of her handprint. Get out. This is my house too. Not anymore. Get your shit and get out. You've got until tonight. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw her calculating, probably running through her legal options, figuring out how to screw me in the divorce. Then she grabbed her purse and headed for the door. This isn't over, Danny. Yeah, I said to her retreating figure. It is. But I was wrong. It was just getting started. Claire moved out that afternoon, taking half our furniture and all of our dignity with her. Within hours, the whole town knew. Cragwood was the kind of place where secrets had the lifespan of mayflies, and my wife's affair was juicy enough to keep the gossips fed for weeks. The worst part wasn't the pitying looks or the whispered conversations that stopped when I walked into Murphy's Hardware. The worst part was Jenna Caldwell. Jenna ran a blog called Cragwood Confidential, which was basically a digital poison pen that she used to destroy anyone who crossed her. She'd been Claire's best friend since college, and she'd never liked me. Now she had the perfect opportunity to twist the knife. Her first post went live 3 days after Claire moved out. Sometimes marriages fail because people grow apart. Sometimes they fail because one person refuses to grow up. When a woman has to look elsewhere for the attention and respect she deserves at home, can you really blame her? Some men just can't satisfy their wives' needs, emotional or otherwise. Hashtag just saying. Hashtag marriage problems. Hashtag Cragwood drama. It didn't mention names, but everyone in town knew exactly who she was talking about. My phone started buzzing with texts from friends and customers, some supportive, others just fishing for details. I ignored them all. But when I walked into Flanagan's bar that night, the conversation died like someone had pulled a plug. 20 pairs of eyes turned to look at me, and I could practically hear them thinking, "There's the guy whose wife left him for a real man." I ordered a whiskey and tried to pretend I didn't notice the stares. That's when Tommy Brennan, my oldest friend, slid onto the stool next to me. "Danny, man, I heard about Claire. I'm sorry." Tommy and I had known each other since high school. We'd played football together, gotten drunk together, been best man at each other's weddings. If anyone was going to have my back, it should have been him. Yeah, well, shit happens. He nodded, but something in his expression made my stomach clench. Look, I gotta ask. Is it true what they're saying? About you and Claire having problems in the bedroom? I turned to stare at him. What the fuck did you just say? I mean, Jenna's blog made it sound like, Jenna's blog can kiss my ass. And so can you if you believe that shit. Tommy held up his hands. Hey, I'm just asking. People are talking. And some of the guys were wondering if maybe you should have seen it coming. You know, if you weren't taking care of business at home. The bar had gone completely quiet now. Everyone was listening, waiting to see how the cuckold would handle being called out by his best friend. I stood up and threw a 20 on the bar. Tell the guys I said to go fuck themselves. And Tommy, next time you want to kick a man when he's down, maybe don't do it in public. I walked out of Flanagan's with as much dignity as I could manage, but I could hear the whispers starting up behind me before the door even closed. The next morning, Jenna's blog had a new post. When someone's pride is hurt, they often lash out at the people trying to help them. But sometimes, the truth is hard to hear. If you can't handle honest questions from your friends, maybe the problem isn't with the questions. Hashtag pride, hashtag truth, hashtag friendship goes only far. That's when I realized this wasn't just about Claire's affair. This was a coordinated campaign to destroy what was left of my reputation. And I had a pretty good idea who was orchestrating it. Owen Hartwell wasn't just some random guy Claire had hooked up with. He was the golden boy of Hartwell and Associates, the senior partner's nephew, and the kind of entitled prick who thought he could take whatever he wanted without consequences. I'd never met him face to face, but I'd heard Claire talk about him, always with a little too much admiration, a little too much detail about his accomplishments. How he'd played lacrosse at Harvard, how he drove a Porsche, how he was being groomed to take over the firm someday. Now I knew why she'd been so interested in his career prospects. I spent the next 2 days planning. Not revenge, exactly. More like a fact-finding mission. I wanted to know who I was dealing with before I decided how to handle this. Owen worked out at Elite Fitness, the fancy gym downtown where all the lawyers and bankers went to pretend they were still athletes. I'd never been inside, but I had a friend who cleaned the place at night. For $50, he was willing to let me borrow his uniform and badge. Wednesday morning, I walked into Elite Fitness wearing a janitor's jumpsuit and pushing a cart full of cleaning supplies. The place was everything I'd expected. All chrome and mirrors and motivational posters about crushing your goals. The kind of environment where guys like Owen could feel superior to the rest of us peasants. I found him in the locker room, getting changed after what I assumed was an expensive personal training session. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with the kind of build that came from good genetics and better nutrition. Handsome in a generic catalog model way that probably made women forget how boring he was in conversation. I waited until the locker room was empty except for the two of us. Then I put down my spray bottle and walked over to his bench.
Owen Hartwell?
He looked up from tying his shoes, and I saw the exact moment he recognized my name, if not my face. His expression went from mild curiosity to poorly concealed panic. "You're Danny Morrison." "That's right. We need to talk." He stood up, trying to use his height advantage to intimidate me. It might have worked if I hadn't spent 15 years fixing boat engines, and the last 5 dealing with entitled customers who thought they could push me around. "Look, I don't want any trouble. Too late for that." I stepped closer, and he backed up against the lockers. "You fucked my wife, in my town. And now your girlfriend Jenna is spreading lies about me on the internet. I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and showed him one of Sam's photographs. "This? Refreshing your memory?" His face went pale. "Okay, look. I'm sorry about the situation, but Claire and we have something real. She's not happy with you, and she hasn't been for a long time." "Is that what she told you?" I laughed. "Let me guess. She said I don't understand her, don't appreciate her, don't satisfy her emotional needs." He nodded, and I could see he actually believed it. Poor bastard probably thought he was rescuing her from a loveless marriage. "Here's the thing, Owen. My wife is a lawyer. Lying is what she does for a living, and you're just another case she's working. That's not true." "No? Then why hasn't she filed for divorce yet? Why is she still wearing her wedding ring? Why is she telling people this is all my fault instead of announcing her new relationship?" I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. "Good. I want you to stay away from my wife," I said, "and I want you to call off your attack dog. I don't know what—" I grabbed his gym bag and dumped the contents onto the floor. Expensive workout clothes, protein powder, a Rolex that probably cost more than my truck. Then I picked up the bag and hurled it through the small window above the lockers. It sailed out into the parking lot and landed in a dumpster with a satisfying crash. "If you so much as text her," I said, "your car's going to end up in the bay. And that's just for starters." Owen stared at the broken window, then at me. For a moment, I thought he might try to swing at me. Instead, he bent down and started gathering his scattered belongings. "You're crazy," he muttered. "No," I said, heading for the door. "I'm motivated. There's a difference." I walked out of Elite Fitness feeling better than I had in days. It wasn't my best moment, but it felt good to finally push back against someone who deserved it. That feeling lasted exactly until I got home and checked Jenna's blog. Violence is always the last resort of a weak man. When someone can't win an argument with words, they resort to threats and intimidation. But bullies always reveal their true nature eventually. The question is, how far will they go before someone stops them? #bullies, #violence, #Cragwood concerns. Posted at 11:47 a.m., less than 2 hours after my conversation with Owen. They were coordinating this. Owen, Jenna, probably Claire too. They'd turned my marriage into a public spectacle, and me into the villain of their little drama. Fine. If they wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty too. My brother Eli worked nights at Flanagan's Bar, which made him the unofficial keeper of Cragwood's secrets. People told bartenders things they wouldn't tell their priests, and Eli had been collecting confessions and gossip for 15 years. I found him Thursday afternoon, setting up for the evening crowd. He looked up when I walked in, and I could see the sympathy in his eyes. "Heard you had some excitement at the gym yesterday," he said. "News travels fast." "In this town?" "Brother, News travels at the speed of light. He poured me a beer without being asked. So, what's the plan? What makes you think I have a plan? Eli grinned. Because I know you. You're not the type to just roll over and take it. Plus, you've got that look. What look? The same look you had right before you put Mickey Sullivan through the window at O'Malley's. That had been 20 years ago, but Eli was right. I could feel the same cold anger building in my chest, the same calculating fury that had gotten me banned from 3 bars and earned me a reputation as someone you didn't want to cross. I need to know about Jenna Caldwell, I said. What kind of things? The kind of things that would make her think twice about running her mouth. Eli considered this while he wiped down glasses. Well, there's the fact that she's been having an affair with Dr. Peterson for the last 2 years. His wife doesn't know. What else? She owes about $30,000 in credit card debt. Gambling problem. Goes to Foxwoods every weekend and loses her ass at the poker tables. Keep going. The credentials on her resume are bullshit. She never graduated from Boston University like she claims. Dropped out sophomore year and never went back. I felt a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. How do you know all this? Because she gets drunk here every Tuesday night and tells me her life story. Plus, Peterson's wife comes in here too, and she likes to complain about how distant he's been lately. Can you prove any of it? The gambling thing, sure. I've got photos from the casino. She posted them on her own Facebook page before she made it private. The affair too, they meet at the Riverside Motel every Thursday afternoon. The education thing would take some digging, but I bet we could find records. I finished my beer and put a 50 on the bar. I need copies of everything you can find. Photos, documents, whatever you've got. Danny, what are you planning? I'm planning to fight fire with fire. Jenna wants to play gossip games? Let's see how she likes being on the receiving end. Eli nodded slowly. I'll have everything for you by tomorrow night. Good. And Eli? This stays between us. Goes without saying. I left Flanagan's feeling like I was finally taking control of the situation, but as I walked to my truck, I noticed a familiar Porsche parked across the street. Owen was sitting behind the wheel, watching me. Our eyes met through the windshield, and he started his engine. I climbed into my truck and waited to see what he'd do. He pulled out of his parking space and drove slowly past me, then turned toward the marina. Following me, or trying to intimidate me. Either way, it was a mistake. I let him get a block ahead, then started following him. The Porsche was fast, but this was my town. I knew every shortcut, every back alley, every dead end. When Owen turned into the marina parking lot, I was already there, waiting for him. He climbed out of his car, looking confused and more than a little nervous. What the hell? You following me now? I asked. I was just what? Trying to scare me? Trying to see what I'm up to? I walked toward him, and he backed up against his car. Let me save you some time. I'm up to ruining your life. How's that for clarity? You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you. I'm promising you. I pulled out my keys and held them up so he could see them. Nice car. Be a shame if something happened to it. His eyes widened. You wouldn't. I dragged the key along the side of his Porsche, leaving a long, deep scratch in the pristine paint. The sound was like fingernails on a chalkboard, and Owen actually whimpered. Stop! That's a $60,000 car. Was, I corrected, and scratched another line parallel to the first one. Now it's a $60,000 mistake. I'll call the police. Go ahead. Tell them you were stalking me and I defended myself. I scratched a third line, this one right across the driver's side door. Tell them you're fucking another man's wife and got upset when he didn't take it quietly. Owen was practically in tears now. Please, stop. I'll pay you. Whatever you want. I don't want your money. I capped the performance by dragging my key across his hood in a long, jagged line that spelled out cheater in foot-high letters. I want you to disappear. Okay, I'll stay away from Claire. I'll tell Jenna to stop the blog posts. Just please don't do anything else to my car. I stepped back and admired my handiwork. The Porsche looked like it had been attacked by a very angry, very precise vandal, which, I suppose, it had been. Too late for that, I said. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell Claire this is over. You're going to tell Jenna to back off. And you're going to stay the fuck out of my life. If I see you again, if I hear about you spreading more lies, if you so much as drive down my street, I'm going to do a lot worse than scratch your paint job. Owen nodded frantically. Yes, okay, I understand. Good. I started walking back to my truck, then turned around. Oh, and Owen? Next time you want to steal someone's wife, maybe pick one who's actually worth the trouble. I drove home feeling like I'd finally gotten some of my own back. The look on Owen's face when I'd scratched his precious car was worth whatever trouble this might cause me later. But when I checked Jenna's blog that night, I realized I'd underestimated how far they were willing to go. When someone damages another person's property, that's not justice, that's criminal behavior. Violence and vandalism are never acceptable, no matter how hurt someone's feelings might be. The police have been notified, and hopefully this escalation will stop before someone gets seriously hurt. #violence, #vandalism, #enough is enough. Posted at 8:23 p.m., complete with photos of Owen's scratched Porsche. They weren't backing down. If anything, they were doubling down, trying to make me look like an unhinged stalker who couldn't handle his wife leaving him. Fine. If they wanted to escalate this, I was ready to show them what escalation really looked like. Friday night, Eli handed me a manila envelope thick with photographs, printouts, and documents. Everything I needed to destroy Jenna Caldwell's carefully constructed image. This is some heavy stuff, he said. You sure you want to go nuclear? I thought about Claire's face when she'd slapped me in our kitchen. About Owen's smug expression in those photographs. About Tommy and the rest of my so-called friends treating me like a joke at Flanagan's. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. I spent the weekend putting together my own blog post, not on some anonymous platform, but right on Jenna's own site. It turns out that when you use the same password for everything, and your security questions are all about your fake college experience, it's not that hard to hack your way in. Monday morning, visitors to Cragwood Confidential got a surprise. Truth time. A confession from Jenna Caldwell. I owe this town an apology. For the last 3 years, I've used this blog to spread gossip, destroy reputations, and settle personal scores. I've lied about my education. I'm a college dropout, not a BU graduate. I've hidden my gambling addiction and the $30,000 in debt it's created. And yes, I've been having an affair with Dr. Peterson while pretending to be a moral authority on other people's relationships. But the worst thing I've done is let my personal dislike of Danny Morrison turn me into a weapon for people who wanted to destroy his reputation. I was paid to write those posts about his marriage. Paid to spread lies about his character. Paid to turn this town against a man whose only crime was trusting the wrong people. I'm done being a puppet for other people's agendas. This blog is finished. And so am I. Don't look for me at the poker tables anymore. I'll be in therapy, trying to figure out how I became such a terrible person. Jenna P.S. Dr. Peterson, your wife deserves better. Danny Morrison, I'm sorry. I'd included photos of Jenna at the casino, screenshots of her real academic records, and even a few pictures Eli had managed to take of her and Dr. Peterson at their motel. By the time she woke up and realized what had happened, the post had been shared across every social media platform in town. My phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Jenna, screaming and crying and threatening to sue me. I let it go to voicemail. Owen called next, his voice tight with panic. What did you do? I told the truth, I said. Funny how much damage that can do when people aren't expecting it. You can't prove I paid her. Can't I? I'd actually made that part up, but his reaction told me I'd guessed right. Doesn't matter now anyway. Your little propaganda campaign is over. This isn't over, Morrison. Yeah, it is. Unless you want me to start digging into your life next. He hung up, and I poured myself a cup of coffee. For the first time in weeks, I was actually looking forward to the day. But my satisfaction was short-lived. That afternoon, Claire showed up at my garage. She looked different. Thinner, more brittle, like she was holding herself together through sheer force of will. The confident lawyer who'd walked out on me was gone, replaced by someone who looked genuinely afraid. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Danny, please. I know you're angry, but what you did to Jenna... What I did to Jenna was give her a taste of her own medicine. Don't like it? Maybe you shouldn't have sicked her on me in the first place. Claire's composure cracked. I never asked her to write those things. Bullshit. Owen already admitted you were coordinating this. Owen's lying. The words came out sharper than she'd intended, and I saw something flicker across her face. The same expression I'd seen that morning in our kitchen when I'd shown her the photographs. "What aren't you telling me, Claire?" She looked around the garage, anywhere but at me. "It's complicated. Uncomplicated." She took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Owen isn't my lover." The words hit me like a physical blow. What? I mean, he was, for a while. But that's not... She stopped, shook her head. "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lying." "Then stop lying and tell me the truth." "The truth is that I'm in love with someone else. Someone I can't be with publicly." Owen was just... cover. A way to make it look like I was having a normal affair instead of what? She looked at me then, and I saw tears in her eyes. Real tears, not the crocodile tears she'd used to manipulate me during our marriage, instead of sleeping with my boss. The garage went completely quiet, except for the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. "Mr. Sloane," I said. She nodded. "Richard and I have been together for 8 months, but he's married, and if his wife finds out, she'll take him for everything in the divorce. He'd lose the firm, his reputation, everything." "So you recruited Owen to be your fake boyfriend?" "Richard's idea. Owen needed a promotion, and Richard promised to make him a partner if he'd play along. It was supposed to be simple. A few public appearances, some staged photos, and then we'd break up quietly after Richard's wife stopped paying attention to his schedule." I stared at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and felt something that might have been pity. "But you fell for it. You actually started sleeping with Owen. It just happened. I was spending so much time with him, pretending to be his girlfriend, and he was sweet and attentive and you're a lawyer who can't keep track of her own lies." She flinched. "I deserve that." "You deserve a lot worse than that." I turned back to the motor I was working on, trying to process what she'd just told me. "So let me get this straight. You're cheating on me with your boss. You're also cheating on your boss with his nephew, and you got your best friend to destroy my reputation to cover up both affairs." When you put it like that, how else would I put it? I spun around to face her. "Jesus Christ, Claire, how many people are you fucking? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. You turned our marriage into a goddamn soap opera." She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streaks. "I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But Danny, if this comes out, if Richard's wife finds out, she'll destroy all of us. She's got connections, money, influence. She could ruin my career, Owen's career, everyone. And that's my problem because you're a good man. Because despite everything I've done to you, you're not cruel enough to destroy innocent people." I laughed, and it came out harsh and bitter. "Innocent people? Claire, you just confessed to cheating on me with 2 different guys and orchestrating a campaign to make me look like an abusive husband. Where exactly are these innocent people you're worried about? Richard's children, his employees, the other lawyers at the firm who depend on those jobs. Fuck them. And fuck you for thinking I'd care." She stepped closer, desperation clear in her voice. "Danny, I'm begging you. Don't make this public. I'll give you whatever you want in the divorce, the house, the car, everything. Just please don't destroy Richard's life." I looked at her for a long moment, this woman I'd loved for 8 years, this stranger who'd been living in my house and sharing my bed while planning my humiliation. "Get out," I said quietly. "Danny, get out of my garage. Get out of my life. And tell your boyfriend and your fake boyfriend that if they come near me again, I'm going to make Owen's scratched car look like a love tap." She stood there for another few seconds, probably trying to think of some legal argument that would change my mind. Then she turned and walked away, her heels clicking on the concrete floor like a countdown timer. After she left, I sat in my garage for a long time, thinking about what she'd told me. Richard Sloane wasn't just Claire's boss. He was one of the most powerful men in Cragwood. Old money, old connections. The kind of guy who could make problems disappear with a phone call. But he was also a cheating husband who'd been using his position to manipulate his employees into covering up his affair. And if there was one thing I'd learned from this whole mess, it was that powerful men often had the most to lose when their secrets came to light. I pulled out my phone and called Sam Kowalski. "I need another favor," I said when he answered. "What kind of favor?" The kind that's going to make my last request look like amateur hour. 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 Hour.